might have trained in one way or the other. Some will probably plan to miss. Let's just leave that. But then, thank you very much for joining. And see, now that I'm officially starting, everybody is trying to just. Okay. Thank you once again for joining. And like I said, this is Datafight Academy, and this is just a series of trainings that we do monthly beyond several other trainings that we also engage in, either with media organizations, stakeholders, CSO, NGOs, government organizations, academic institutions, right? Or even anybody randomly, organizations, business institutes interested in data, how to analyze data, how to interpret data, because all of the work we do at Datafight and even the academy is that we can resource the ecosystem, right, with data. So this is just one of the free free trainings that we get to push out there, right, for everyone to see, for everyone to also participate in, because we believe that as much as we can resource the ecosystem and get to get to also involve them in how they use data. Obviously, that gives us a sense of not basically ownership, but advancement or resourcing into the space, right? So I need not to introduce DataFi to you. We are a civic digital organization. In the last 5 years, always use data as our communicating tool to reshaping the governance or policy or civic space, or if you like to add also media ecosystem. So thank you once again and welcome to Data Fight Academy. So what we'll be doing basically today is run you through how, let me understand that everybody can hear me. I think that should be like the first thing I should have asked. So if you can't hear me, kindly unmute your mic. I want to believe everyone can unmute their mic. Unmute your mic and just say something. Okay, I'm seeing the reactions.
I can hear you.
Yeah, it's nice to also see and hear from you. Okay, so one of the things we're going to be doing today practically is how we understand the system of fiscal accountability, fiscal governance. By fiscal governance, understanding basically the financial flows around government system. The essence of this training, like this is like the first practical training. So we hope that in subsequent months we'll be moving deep into several things. So as much as we want to touch a lot of things today, we really might not end up touching everything, right? But we go as far as possible, right, to see how much we can eat every of these points, especially in governance. We understand a lot of people are policymakers, a lot of people are media practitioners. The essence of all this is that whether you are outside the whole planning stage of how fiscal appropriation is done, right? You understand the process, and you can always story tell. Now, in the whole idea of all this is that data is very, very important, right? So people would see and use these data sets and believe that, even the government have put out some of these data sets and believe that because they are just bunch of numbers out there, you might not really know how to join every of these things together to make up a perfect storytelling, or how you can even investigate in all of this process, right? And as it's been known, policymakers and media practitioners are like the arms of the fourth arm of ensuring transparency in the government, right? While you have every other person doing that, right? You have people who are involved. Now, this process, Nigeria is our case study, obviously, but it could be relative to every other country, right? The process could actually be relative to every other country, but you almost see how you can almost relate some of all these things in several other institutions or governance systems that you are in, and see how that can also help you to storytell or help you to do. Now, I need to quickly say this, that you should follow us on every of our social media handle, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, at Datafight Academy. One of the things we've also tried to do is that every of our videos is also uploaded after the training. So there are a series of trainings that we've done. Like I said, this is 6.0. So it means that we've done at least about 5 series, starting from December. For the last 2 months now, we've not done any series. That's because the Data Fight Academy team has been involved in several other training that had to make them travel to several institutions and several states. So we didn't have time to sit down like this. So it's been a while sitting down with everybody like this. So welcome. With that being said, I think I can officially start. So once again, my name is Kendi Ogunade. I'm available everywhere you can see me. All right, so let me stop this. Don't worry, I'm not a man of many slides, so just imagine I'm not going to bore you with a lot of slides. Like I said, one of the things that we want to do today, I want to see how I can help you to understand um, the whole process of accountability, right? And if you So today we're just going to be discussing. So follow my sheet very well, because that was going to this is like going to guide us. It's going to be like the map that guides us on how we do everything that we're going to be doing today. Right? So first we're going to be treating what I call fiscal, right? I believe everyone can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Aha. Okay. So I always feel like, or I believe that the whole idea of every fiscal or governance data, right, has multiple leg, right, or multiple frameworks depending on how you see it, right. If you understand all these frameworks, it gives you a very perfect overview to essentially not even knowing how to latch stories. So I guess we confuse a lot of times when journalists say, we don't have stories to do for this, we don't have stories to submit on this. And there are a lot of data sets available. Probably don't understand the interpretation of some of those data. So essentially, when the data is just shown to you, you just feel, what's the summary about this? And amen. So it's the same leg we can also move for every governance data, right? Um, I always feel it have two legs. Number one is how we see the lenses of accountability from these two frameworks. Like I said, I can't touch everything today, but I'm going to try to touch as much as I can, right? So, if you're Mike, please just kindly mute your mic so that you will not disturb everybody. I will try as much as possible to also make sure that it can be interactive. So we'll be doing some of those interactions on the chat, right? One leg that I always see to how we interpret every fiscal data set is what I call the policy framework part of it. I said the policy what? Framework. This is just understanding how governments demanding for accountability or demanding for government is demanding for transparency, sorry, is tied to how government or how elected leaders makes policy, right? And this policy can be at anything. I mean, it can be subdivided into several, even in our respective institutions and offices, we have HR policies that guides every of the things that we do, right? And for government system, at least primarily, I always like to put them into what I call policy targets, right? And policy implementation, right? Is there any difference in these two? Not really, right? So we will define targets as every promises of the government, right? That speaks to a particular specific deadline, right? Every promises or, I mean, expectations, let's put it as that, of the government that speaks to a particular deadline, right? Um, the only difference between every of these and this, so this has a deadline essentially, right? The only difference between any of these and the policy implementation is the fact that one has deadline, the other one is more of a continuous process. Yeah, are you following me? So let me explain what I mean by these two, right? Uh, an example of every policy target would be number one, things like the federal government. So give me a minute. So example of policy targets, right, would be that the federal government plans to end, probably federal government plans to end methane emission or emission by 2030. How many of you have you heard sort kind of promises by the government before, right? Federal government plan to, I mean, and you can go on the chart and probably if you remember any, it doesn't have to be correct, but you've probably had a target date about something. You can just put it on the chart and we just pick it up from there, right? A plan to, I know of one plan to end access data, or you see access data, no? There's something around the electrification, give access to electricity, and they'll tell you give access plan to give access to electricity by let's say 2060, right? You would always find these fixed dates across every of those things, right? Plan to end something immunization by 2030. Now, the difference between that and this is that this is more of like a yearly or quarterly, or let's use the word systemic um, um, dedication to solving a particular issue. Now, every policy framework, please understand, are always tied across a particular issue, right? So those issues, right? Those issues could be social, right? Health. Is someone still with me? Gender. What else again do we have? Defense. That's security. What else again do we have? Welfare. And by welfare, I probably mean housing, lifestyle, and the likes of those things. What else again do we have? Education. Education is very important. All right. Okay, I'm seeing someone putting something on the chat. Uh, okay, I'm seeing someone saying government aim to enroll 40%. Yeah, 40% of population into by 2030. So they're just random things, right? Let me add that to this, please. Right? Education. What else again can we add to this? Education, gender, every social cultural issues, right? Or let's just go socio-economic issues, etc. Right? They're just much as we want to define them, right? If each of all these things are tied into more of the government promises to how they address several of these issues. Food security, yeah, I forgot. Agric is also a very, very important thing there. So let's add agric so that someone will not say we are not. Yeah, agric is also very, very important. Right. So you see some of all these policy framework formed across some of these issues. Now, why we have to really point them out is so that you can understand that demanding accountability also means that you are understanding some of all these policies, right? So when you see a president saying he's traveling to what do they call it, Spain or this thing to sign a treaty with something, or cement talks with this person to do this particular thing, is always around some of all these things, right? Um, how they can almost affect every policy, right? And which is it? So the difference between that and every continuous policy implementation is that this one always have, like I said, a systemic move of achieving all of or addressing some of these issues. So you see things like federal government said it's going to dedicate 10%. I don't know if you have heard of something like this, 10% of its allocation annually for agri. I've heard of something like this before, right? Um, Probably another one can be federal government said it was going to dedicate 2% of, I mean, and there are multiple. If you know any, you can always give me one. I know of one other 15% to address 15% to address healthcare issues, right? I know of healthcare, right? Most of them even come in federal government plans to do this, federal government plans to dedicate this amount. So you would see in every of all these kind of things that, okay, yeah, there's this decision of the federal government to set aside so amount, right, to address so issue. This does not have, the only difference, like I said, this does not have like a target date, right? The only difference is that it's just a continuous process of how the federal government or how the government. So, like I said, federal government, state government, any of the elected leaders plan to address that issue. I've seen one of federal government's plans to reduce insecurity by half or something like that. Right. So you don't speak any of this natural issue and you see you can put it either in this place or this place. Now, why do I have to talk about this? Is that each of this process, right? And we can spend like a whole 3 hours just on defining or understanding how policy frameworks are being formed, right? Each of this process can become a story for you, right? Let's randomly pick a mission, right? Between now and 2030 is how many years? Let me know if someone is following. Between now and 2020 is 2030 is how many years? Why do you don't want this call?
5 years, right?
Yeah. So between now and 2020 is 5 years, right? So what's the government plan? Let's say the government made this plan like 20, let's say it made the plan by the plan around, let's say 2020, and said in the next 10 years it was going to deal with it, right? Any story being told right now that puts the government on a tracker target, right? That says, okay, is government actually living up to this? Or where are we right now? 5 years is just almost at our doorsteps. Are there chances that we can? So, questions I want to ask are things like, are there chances that by this 2030 we can end this thing? What is probably limiting it or limiting those achievements from happening? What has the federal government or the government in the system done over time to make sure that this target it meets it, right? And you just do your own independent stories and independent research and independent investigation. Like I said, to address this, right? To address this emission, if these are targets, right, will probably mean that there were probably some implementations the federal government is putting in place, or the government. Why am I using federal government? The, the government is putting in place to addressing some of these issues. So you might want to be tracking in between 2020 and now, right? What are the steps that the government has taken to say, this is this, we are going to address this. Okay, let's take for instance that the promise was made by the late Mohammed Buhari, right? Now we have another new president on seat now who ruled Nigeria, for those outside the country, ruled Nigeria for close to 2 years, right? Are there promises or targets that were abandoned, right? Or are there implementations that this government is not paying concentration to, such that it might affect us in the nearest future, right? I'm saying that you can literally sit down, right, and do a long sheet. And this is speaking to every writers and editors on this. I've seen 1 or 3 editors join us right now. It's like you can easily sit down, pick a long sheet, and write out and do a search of every of the federal government targets and federal government promises to implement in the last 3 to 4 years, and begin to pick it 1 week after the other and begin to write a story around it. On the health sector, how many times has the government promised it will do this, it will do this? Calculate that time till now, right? Are there funds that have gone into this? Are there so that you're not just doing just a natural news story, you're doing a research space to say, okay, between this time and this time. Now, I know when the federal government made the plans for emission, one of the things he did was set up a panel that that helps to do energy transition, right? Which was, I think, spearheaded by the former vice president, just Yemi Osibajo, right? Did that energy transition plan, right? There was another time that there's another policy that he made that even created the Ministry of Climate Change on its own, right? So you begin to pick all of these developments and match it together and say, okay, are we closer to achieving what we say we want to achieve? Or we still need like other years to extend it, right? And you can also list out a lot of it. That can be like your own personal assignment. Like in my own particular field, I write as an health reporter, can I list out like 10 targets and 10 implementations that the federal government said it was going to do? And let's begin to put a track or target on it. There's a particular newspaper that I love so much. It came out one time when the chief of the chief of defense staff? Yeah. This was the chief of defense staff came out and said, oh, within 3 months, we are going to capture this particular criminal. And what the newspaper did was this particular criminal that has been tormenting, I mean, these particular people in this particular region. We have deployed men, and what particular newspaper did that from that they started the timer. Oh yeah. Sorry about that. They started a timer on their website tracking. Okay. When it got to the time that that man said he was doing, hey, we saw that no news, no reports. This person was still, I mean, up and down doing his thing. There was nothing saying that this man has been captured till date. Except maybe they've removed it this morning. At least as of yesterday or 2 days ago that I checked, right? The timer is still there. 15 days, or I think it's over 200 days right now. Right? 200 days after this person promised he was going to capture this thing. He has not. If that thing puts every government person or elected person on their toes to see that, okay, come, there are people very, very well interested in how we make some of these laws. So we cannot really just come out to say this and this and this and this is that, right? And that's it. So one of the things I probably want to put for you to challenge you to do is, can you list out several targets and several implementations around your specific field and see if you can now start putting a timeline to tracking the development. So things that you want to do to help you around this course is how you understand what I call policy creation, right? Understand policy evaluation, right? And understand policy, policy execution. Do you get what I just said? What? Understand what? Policy creation, policy evaluation, and policy execution, right? What led to the creation of that particular policy? How was it formed? What were the events surrounding um, why that policy was made, right? Then your own step as the investigative journalist is now to do what? Begin to evaluate it, right? Was it something, there are a lot of targets that we have done that we had to revisit and sit down because we didn't have the resources. In fact, I know a climate target that says that they are going to end so by 2030 with with international support. Without international support, it's going to be like maybe an additional 10 years or an additional 5 years, right? So we need to evaluate there. Your work basically is around evaluation and execution, right? So what steps are the government taking to address any of these issues, right? Am I clear on every policy framework? I want to take one or two questions right now before I move to the second part. Are we clear on this? If you have any question, just unmute yourself and ask. No question, so I can go ahead. Someone talking, let me know. So I can't see I'm just on my screen right now, so I can't see if you're raising up your hand or doing anything. Do you understand that? Okay, so I believe the silence means that we actually do understand what I just said. All right. Now we move from that to the next aspect, which is the understanding the finances. Right? Of the government. Is there a better word that I can use? Oh, Jesus. Sorry. Is there a better word I can use? I'm trying to think of a better word I can use, right? Mm,
Like spending
yeah. Mm,
or budget.
budget is like a very sensitive word, so maybe I should just leave it as finances. If I get another word, I'll change it, right? Now I see the problems with people who write books. All right, so understanding the finances, right, of the government, right, and which is also important in the how we advance. So let me just delete this so that we can have space to work on, right? Uh, understanding finances basically is how money flows in and out of the government. No other definition to it. How money gets into government and how they are spent, right? Um, if you understand how money gets in, right, then you can almost evaluate how it is spent. So how money gets in, let's bring this column up here. Okay, let's see, because is that a question? Okay, monetary inflow. People like using big words. I don't know why people like using big words. So how money gets in, how money comes in, right? And how what? How money is spent. You can use any big word for it though, right? Understanding this part of the government will mean that um, you are trying to, and like I always say, every policy framework, right, is at one point, whether at the creation part or at the whether the creation or the evaluation or the execution is always tied to finance. Do you agree with me on that? Do you agree with me on that? I want to
Sorry,
know if I don't need to explain that.
Yes,
We
yes,
agree,
yes,
right?
of course.
So it's always tied to finance, right? If the federal government is going to give you everybody's going to have access to electricity by 2060. And then he has to release money now to either buy solar or buy, right? Which is another thing that you probably need to note around the demystification. I said I don't want to do a lot of talking around policies, and I have to do this because I understand that sometimes we can have policymakers or policy advocates, and that also don't understand the media part, right? So, how you have to understand the demystification of, or should I say, decentralization, which works. Let me know which works. Demystification, decentralization. Right? Decentralization of how you have to understand the decentralization of policies. Now, I'm making this to say that sometimes, and take for instance, you have a government telling you that it wants to create electricity. So automatically, you know that the 5 ways. So if we're going to use electricity as an example, right? So electricity as an example, right? If a government says it's going to create electricity, right? What we would expect that what it begins to do is provide money for, can someone help me? Provide money for, uh, what's that thing that they call it? Provide money
Metering.
for
Is it metering?
transformer, right?
Transformer.
Metering, like
Transform, exactly. Transformers. Someone said metering, right?
Cables,
What else again?
meters.
Yeah. What is the cables, I mean?
rural
Yeah.
electrification.
Exactly. Now, why I have to bring this up is that if you want to pick electricity as just your focus point, it means that in achieving or evaluating, especially in executing that policy, right, you have to understand how all these steps are being captured. Someone can have transformer and not have the cable. Do you understand what I'm saying? Or can have transformer and cables, yet there's no direct source of power that is getting into that community, right? So you begin to understand that, okay, which is more better for us to do? Should we just do solar? Or should we? Someone mentioned something like rural electrification. Now, the way you is the word electrify, right? Or the way you install power in the urban center is almost very, or in urban areas, it's almost very different from how you do that in rural areas. Yes or yes, right? So you need to understand some of those systems. So I'm saying that you can actually just pick electricity as your focus point and looking at all the policy around federal government targets or federal government implementations around providing electricity as a basic amenity to people, right? And now seeing that, just remember one joke. Once, I think our president once said that if he doesn't give us consistent electricity in 4 years, right? And after 4 years, we should not elect him. Now, if I throw that question out, is that a policy target or a policy implementation? If yes, or if the other, why is it? And if you're going to address that, or if you're going to work on that, what are your first point of call or points of research that you're going to do? Let me throw it out to 1 or 2 persons to answer. I'm actually looking forward to hear from the person that talked about metering and cables and electrification. So let's go. So let's see, raise your hand. No, just unmute yourself and just talk. So if you're going to pick, when he was campaigning, he said that if you don't get consistent electricity for 4 hours, for every day in the next 4 years, don't elect me. Is that a target or an implementation? Which of it is? And if you are going to address that as a policymaker or a journalist, what are the research points that you're going to make? Anybody unmute yourself? Let's go. So that we know that we understand how policy frameworks can be formed and we can use to address every form of accountability. Yeah, I'm waiting.
Well, I think for me, I think that is a target. Like saying we must have at least so number of hours if that doesn't happen. So now they will now look at what are the things in place that can facilitate that or that is already making that happen. So let's say all rural areas have been electrified, like there's cables and stuff, and there is this
If you
reduction
were the
in
one
the.
working on it, what are you going to, what are your first three things that you're going to go to?
Okay, first thing is I'll look at how like the percentage of Nigerians that have direct access, like constant access to
Mm,
electricity.
that's a good one.
That's one. Then maybe like the number of times the power grid has failed or how much
Mm,
hours
that's a
are
very
these
smart one.
people getting the electricity. Then we'll
Okay.
look at, okay, so even if the electricity is available, how much of them are able to afford it? I think
Okay.
these are the
So
three things I
you're
would.
talking about affordability, right? Accessibility, right?
Yeah,
And availability.
yeah, exactly. Those are
These
the
are the
three
three
things I
things that
think
you
I'll
mentioned.
first check.
Okay, very, very good. All right. I think those are good points. Another person, let me have what you say.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, I agree with him that the statement is a target. It's a target statement. So, but I think the indices that should be considered, or what I may call determinants. One of them is, as at the time the president made that statement, how many kilowatt power did Nigeria
Are we
generate?
generating?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, as at the time the president made that statement, what was the average budget? What was the budget of allocated to power sector?
Okay. That's a very good one too. Very good thought process. That's two. The third one, call.
Yeah. The third one is, what are the foreign direct investments that the president has attracted to power sector within that particular 2 years? Why I'm saying
Helping,
so?
I mean, yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, why I'm saying so is that uh, I think last week we understand that the Adeleke, I think launch or another power station in Osun State or wherever. So I think those are the three key determinants. What is the current power generation condition in the country?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What is, yeah, what is the current budget? And by that time, plus or minus, if the number of watts that we generated was 2, then we now check
Mm-hmm.
what is the problem as at his second year. Is it up to 3? Has he been able to double it?
Mm-hmm.
If he's not been able to double it, then we can say that the president has not done well in that regard. And also look at the budget. Okay, as at the time we generated maybe 2 kilowatt, the budget was 2 naira.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as at the time the president promised that, yeah, improvement in power supply, is the budget increasing or decreasing?
Or decreasing. Very good. That helps to augment if the statement was not ordinary, if there's
Ye-
actually financial backing to that particular statement. I understand that.
Yes. And the last one, like I said, what is the level of investment that has been
Investment
attracted
that
to,
is going into it.
yeah, into power sector? That's
You
what I
know, at
think.
one point, I think at one point we also need to start checking, and I think someone mentioned it is people that use the electricity, right? And that's why I really talked about decentralization, right? If you want to provide 24 hours electricity to everybody, it almost means that different sources of electricity has to be created. I don't know if you understand, if anybody agrees with me, right? Because there are some areas in some places that our Kanji Dam and every other kinds of dams would not get right? So do we also need to start thinking of expanding that? Or is that we are not even generating as much as that capacity? So there used to be a time in a particular medium that I worked with when we want to do things like this, right? We would evaluate how we evaluate it is just like some we have mentioned is what is our current capacities right now. I will now say, okay, if we want to achieve this in 2030, just as the president has said. So the president said he was going to grow the economy to a 1 or 3 trillion naira economic yearly. It means that, sorry, economy yearly. So it means that if we are about 6 billion, and right now the president is going to go to trillion, it means that every year we must be adding so amounts if we have to meet this particular target. Now, any year, coincidentally, we did that too. But I didn't see, I mean, I've left the organization, but then I didn't see anybody pick it up to say, okay, now that this first year, can we evaluate? We said he was going to meet this target. He didn't meet it. What are the challenges that didn't make it to meet it? Right? Are those challenges, because at one time we need to see our media point as not just criticism of the government, but also providing solutions. Are there lessons that we probably need to learn to meet up with the next year targets? Or are there things that we are not doing right that we probably need to check? And that's just you understanding. You see how we have just sat down on electricity and we have brought out about like 5 to 6 stories. So imagine doing that for like 3, 4 sectors. You're having a story for close to 3 months. Does anybody understand what I'm saying? Any other person wants to add anything before we just move on to the next part? Any other person?
To do this, how long will it be taking per report for example?
I mean, it depends on how good you can write. Honest answer. Honest answer. I bet you honest answer. It depends on how good you can research and write. Right? Sometimes it takes a lot of time, especially if you are new into the sector. Right? I don't know what sector you report, but imagine reporting conflict and you're asked to do something around climate. You would have to read like a lot. FFAC, how many of you know what FFAC means? IGR, right? Then we go to loans and grants. Let me pick someone heads. Is there any difference between loan and grant? A loan and a grant? Anybody? Probably go on the chat or meet yourself and see it. Is there any difference between a loan and a grant? Anyone can unmute himself to talk. All right. Are we still in this meeting? Is there any difference? So we can, if we don't allow people to talk because of the whole intrusion, I mean, I think everybody can
Yes,
just use
please.
their
They can
chat.
use the chat. Yes. Let them use the chat.
Okay. So let's just use our chats. I think the whole intrusion is what is making us kind of streamline how we get. So let's just use the chat. Do you think there's any difference between a loan and a grant? If you think that there is, I mean, just put it up, right? In state government, I know that you have difference. This would, if I were teaching state government, I would probably said IGR, yeah. And maybe I should just probably just put it out. Yeah. Right. Some people will say that the federal government's revenue at the end of the day is what is spent as fact. So some of the things that make up all this, right, are things like CIT, right? Things like CIT, VAT, PPT. Oh, let me begin to explain what that means. So CIT meaning company income tax, VAT meaning value added tax, PPT meaning petroleum profit tax or something like that, import duties, right? Custom duties, right? And so on and so forth. A lot of it. right? Money generated from oil revenue and the likes. So there are just many, right? And this, I'm saying this because this is federal government. If it were to be state government, right, we would only have things like your import tax and all of that things be coming in as that. To now say that the federal government actually gives them what they call FAC, which is the federal allocation that is given every month, shared across every state. There's a sharing formula, so it's always shared across every state, local government, and even the federal government itself, right? Then there are some amounts that they just go around all this. Then loans and grants, right? Sometimes we seek external loans from the likes of the IMF, World Bank, what other ones again? World Bank. Someone said, maybe I mentioned China. No, let me not put China. Other countries. Because Africa borrow a lot from, right, countries. You also have banks like even African Development Bank, right? And so there are several banks that people okay, let me just pick one or two comments. Someone said loan is have to be repaid, grants are not repaid. Okay. Someone said loan has to be paid back while grants are free. Okay, so everybody's almost saying there's a difference. Loan is repaid, grants is the money given for a particular purpose. Okay. Loan comes with interest. That's another new angle. Like debt but grants like a gift is not supposed to be paid back. Okay. The difference between loan and grants, I think everybody's almost saying the same thing. Loan is paid, grants is paid. Are you sure that grants are not paid? I'm not arguing. I'm just asking. I like to probably ask questions than argue. Right? Yeah, Islamic Development Bank. So there are a lot that we borrow from, right? Whether externally or internally. All of this now becomes, so when there are loans, right? Uh, right? Let's cut this out here. Here. So when there are loans, you find them in places like so when there are loans, automatically they become debt, right? Right. So then you begin to trace them and say, okay, in all these debts, how much is what we call the domestic debts, right? And the external debts. Right. Now, the difference between these two is that one is locally borrowed, the other one is not, is borrowed externally. Right. Institutions that will help you to manage this. Oh, I've not gotten to institutions, but let me just write that out. So you can always see this in DMO. So you have things like that. The federal government is owing China for something, something, something. The federal government is owing World Bank, so owing IMF, owing US, owing this, right? Or the state borrowed money from this side. You have the DMO, which is the debt management office that helps to control or moderate that. I think, and I'm not sure of this, I think that there is a peak limit for borrowing. I think there's a peak limit for borrowing, especially when it comes to states and every of those things. I didn't say, please, I didn't say we're in China, right? Just take it as owing other countries. I never said we're in China. I retract that statement, right? So I think that there's a limit for states on how I think there is. I heard someone telling me that there's actually a limit. If I check the trajectory, there's actually a limit of how much a state can go outside and how much. But I really don't confirm. I really have never confirmed that. But then, what you have for FAC, which is almost generated at every time. So every month there's this particular money that is being collected from taxes. Right now, why I have to split FAC and IGR is because for state governments, the FAC allocations, state and local government, the FAC allocations is always distributed every month when they go to for their, federal executive meeting. And I was about saying NEC, and I discovered that NEC is for political parties. So FEC is that for the government, right? Then they distribute that. But when it comes to federal government, people like to merge fact and idea together because at the end of the day, everything is taxes, right? And where do you check this? Okay, we will come to institutions later because that's like the next level of teachings that we're going to. So now, how you understand how all this money are being spent, or sorry, how all this money, remember, all this is money coming in, right? Will now determine or help you to see how the government can implement every of these targets that you have set. Do you understand that? Right? So if the federal government makes more money from all these allocations that come, at least these are the three principal ones. Now, I know that there are other ones, right? But then we don't want to write donations because sometimes we saw donations during COVID-19, right? So that helps to clean up for how the money comes in. Now, how do you now monitor money spent? Let's bring this down here. How do you monitor what? Money spent. The first thing is to look at what we call budget, right? So the federal government budget is like the general allocation that goes in every time, or that determines how the federal government intend to spend for a fiscal year. In 2025, the federal government plans to spend 53 trillion. This means that every of the things that would happen doesn't go outside this money. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Every of the things that will happen don't go what's outside this money. Natural. In a good, as one as wants question me on this, in a good system, we're supposed to have the understanding the budget cycle to say that okay, it should start by a budget implementation to start by January and finish by December. But in Nigeria, well, the case is different, right? So understanding how budget is being spent, right? Every of this budget can be classified at least into two, which is called recurrent, right? And capital expenditure. I'm walking us through all this process so that by the time, if we can't finish the whole practical for this class, when we're going to do the part two, I will just come to this place, pick, and begin to do what we're doing, right? Recurrent are always declassified into what we call personnel costs, and overheads, right? One takes care of salary, one takes care of other working amenities, right? Both of them sum together make what we call recurrent costs. So recurrent expenditure is just the money by monthly or by weekly that the government spends. So by monthly, the government has to pay salaries, right? Whether he's owing or not. He has to buy amenities. Your health constant contain things like we want to buy fuel in the ministry, we are hosting a party, we want to do something, we want to all those stationaries, buy printer, buy paper, equip you get. And I'm not saying that some of those stationaries and the likes cannot also fall under capital expenditure. I mean, it can be capital. I always say that there's a particular ministry that sometimes I need to even do the story sometimes. It's like there's a particular ministry in this year that God is at least 80 to 90% of its capital expenditure is on buying furniture. 80 to 90% of its expenditure, right? It's on buying furniture. That you make a ministry as much as this, and everything that you're not doing is buying. I mean, it's so fun, right? But then the capital expenditure is just for more serious things, right? We want to build solar lights. So it means that if we go back to this electricity as an example, I want to look at how the framework has happened, right? One of the things we should begin to do is now come and say, how much is dedicated. So this year, we want to help give electricity by 2030, right? Or we probably said that at least every year we'll be dedicating. Now we need to probably dedicating, let's say, let's make a number 3 points here. Let's say dedicating 40%, which is unrealistic, obviously, of our expenditure of our budget to electricity, right? You probably want to go and calculate how much of, and this is where people always miss it. So tip number one, you are calculating expenditure of capital expenditure, and you're saying that you're going to government is planning to address electricity. If you want to check how much of the budget has been allocated to electricity, which ministry would you go to? Everybody go to your charts right now and type. Which ministry would you go to check how much of the budget is allocated to electricity? Which ministry will you go to? I'm waiting for our charts. Which ministry will you go to? Ministry of Power. Okay. I don't agree with you. Ministry of Power, I don't agree with you. Paul, if you can control it, if you want to speak, right, raise up your hand. Paul, can people raise up your hand to talk? Please confirm for me. Like, can people request for the mic? I want 1 or 2 persons to defend. I've seen Ministry of Power, I've seen Ministry of Finance, I've seen Budget and Planning, very good. We want to check electricity, right? What ministry will we go to? Paul, please confirm if people can request for the mic so that I can ask 1 or 2 persons to request for the mic and just unmute them and let us hear what they're saying. But the only way you are going to be unmuted is if you have made your chat, so that helps us streamline. Make your chat, let them see that at least you are, so that helps us streamline those who are trying to infiltrate. So yeah.
Yes, please.
So
Say
just
their
request for
names.
your mic.
Say their names so we can.
Let me see. Any of you want to talk? Just probably request. Is it possible to request for mic? Just request for mic and let us just have you talk. Abubakar Sulaiman. Okay, Abubakar Sulaiman has raised his hand. Yeah, let's have him go. Let me know why
Yeah.
you're picking.
So I can speak now.
Yeah.
The Ministry of Budget and Planning is where every ministry and every sector got what they were decided in the bigger budget.
So we are both smiling at ourselves, right? First is, I think the first question I want to ask is, do you understand actually the mandate of the Ministry of Budget and Plan? First. Okay, you've been muted already. Okay, let's see another person help us understand. Let's see if you want to defend your points. So I've seen Ministry of Budget, Ministry of Electricity. Do you know Ministry of Electricity in Nigeria? I'm not sure if we have ever. So I'm not condemning the word electricity that you used, because over time, what we have observed in different administrations, they change the name. And in fact, Tinubu did a lot of changing names. This is one administration. In the rest were still a little bit consistent. We just added to it, but he changed almost all the names, right? So major aviation and aerospace development, something like that. Yeah. Meanwhile, it was Ministry of Aviation, but we added aerospace and something like that. I think there's a Ministry of, is it water resources or something that you added to, right? So I'm not saying that there are a lot of changing of names, but maybe I should not, to keep us here too long, is that fine. If you want to go to the Ministry of, I don't think Ministry of Finance and Budget and Planning will help you. Ministry of Power, yes. But if that's the only ministry that you're going to check how much the federal government is dedicating to address electricity. You are wrong. Because it's not only Ministry of Power that it has the mandate to provide, its mandate generally is to control power across, or directly control power. It's actually to do a lot about power projects in Nigeria. Right? But it's not only Ministry of Ministry of Power that puts in its capital expenditure power projects. You will see Ministry of Agriculture also writing, create a solar grid light for the farmers in something like that. And you see Ministry of Education saying they want to install power generating sets, power transformers in some nursing hospitals, in some communities that are closer to the nursing hospitals. Now, and all of those projects are not captured under the Ministry of Power, right? So it means that I'm not saying that at the end of the day, if you want to check any electricity project, you have to go down to check all the MDs, which is actually a stressful work. The last time we did it here some months ago, we had to run a code. Right? I actually thought, I'm not sure it's online, which probably I might find time later to put the code up, but we just ran a code. And because we had to compress all the budget into multiple sheets, so we ran a code to check through all those sheets. And one of the reasons we like to put those online is to say, oh, this is a faster way of doing it. I've done it the other way, where I had to check all the ministries one after the other. Prior to the time, I think that was last year or last 2 years, I never knew that code existed, right? Until this year when I found it out. And I just did that, all right? And that helps my time, crunched all the numbers within 1 day. So at the end of the day, you have to do it. Sorry? You have to check all the ministries. Let us understand how much each of these ministries are dedicating for their power projects. Do everybody understand? If you understand, just type yes in the chat box, right? How much every of them are dedicating what for power project. Then you sum all this up and now see if it actually agrees. Recently, a colleague of mine did a work. Everybody has always been saying Ministry of Agri this year did not meet the target. I think it was just 2%. As a Maputo declaration that says 2% of 10% must be allocated for agri. Everybody has said, agri is failed because why? It's just 2% that are allocated to the Ministry of Agri. Right? At the end of the day, when he said it was just 2% allocated for Ministry of Agri, everybody ran with that narrative. Meanwhile, what we decided to do was check the whole of the budget. It's not only Ministry of Agri that is doing agri-related projects, right? It should be under their mandates, right? It should be them controlling it. But Nigeria is Nigeria. So, SSG, Secretary of State going to the government, is saying, State Secretary of the government is saying that I want to also do an agri project, right? We're using education. Ministry of Education saying that it's also going to do some agri projects in some schools to help them understand agriculture and help them in creating farms and helping students. Those are also agri projects. So at one point, we have to scrape all the ministries and now put it. Well, when we decided to put everything together, I think we're amounting to about 1.3 trillion, which was almost 7% of the budget. So if a Maputo declaration says that we need to reach 10% and we have got it to 7%, we have tried. Right? We've really tried. All right. So that's just to clear the eye on that. So where's the money spent? Then we go to contracts, right? This essentially speaks to who is actually implementing the projects, right? Then we go to what we call audits, which obviously evaluates how the money is being spent. Like you need to understand all this, right? To know that, because all this will just give you a story. Now, you see how I've stayed on recurrent and capital expenditure for the last like 10, 20 minutes for you to understand how and see that you can actually get a lot of stories around those particular times. Then you go to contracts. And I say, okay. Sorry about that. I've frustrated myself over the night. So, Now we wanted to understand electricity, right? Who are the people that are implementing several electricity projects, right? Who are the persons that the government is giving to carry out this project for us, right? So the regular government said for us, so this is an example, right? FG said, FG dedicated, FG allocated, let's say 40 million to rural electrification, right? This is a very, very good example, but then we want to understand who got this project, right? These are examples here. Who got what? This project. At one time, there's what we call the bidding process around this. There are several types of bidding. Can we go into that topic today? Selective bidding. I think this is it competition that they call it, or competitive bidding. So there's selective, there's competitive. I think there's a third one. Forgotten about that, right? So really, the whole idea is actually for everybody to submit. By bidding, meaning that everybody is submitting their proposal. The federal government told us, okay, we have 40 million to run this project, right? Any organization or any company that is coming out to that thinks it can carry out this, come and submit your proposal. Everybody, even do the adverts on newspapers. So you find some of the newspapers, you read them, you see the federal government is opening a call for so and so and so. See it on pages of newspaper. Everybody begins to submit their proposal, right? It should be a private involved thing, right? Such that anybody that can submit your proposal are registered on CAC, have license to carry out that project, right? And they can bid for it. Now, the idea is that if the government says they are budgeting 40M, if their contract is going to be awarded, it must not exceed 40M. So it can be lower, it can be how did I spell exceed? I guess that's funny. So it can be lower, it can be 39, but it must not exceed 40M, right? So it means that everybody now coming to now say, hey, we want to do this project, brings their money. What is expected is that the government will choose that which is cheaper. This is always coordinated by the National Assembly. Now, this is where corruption obviously starts, because at the end of the day, you go and bring someone that you know or someone that you have shares in, which is actually against the what we call the public procurement law, that every political appointed person or politically elected person must not be involved in any bidding or carrying out of any projects, right? I don't know how that section of the law puts it, but I know that's what's paraphrased to me, right? So let's check who are the people that got the project. There's something very interesting that my boss always do. He will say that if every government comes out to say this is a project we want to carry out, and we begin to check contract, can we also demystify contracts by gender and now understand, are the federal government always considering a female-led organization? I've given someone a very good story. Are federal government contract always considering what? Female-led organization? What's the percentage of female-led organizations winning contracts than a male-led organization winning the contracts? That's a sweet story that someone can write. That will require you punching a lot of numbers. I will stop there so that I'm not going to give you a scope. Right? Don't mind me. Right? So you probably want to check that. Right? Who are the people that got this contract? Can we tie them to any political figure? Right? If you can't get that, so it means that what we wrote here, right? We can equally just bring it down here to say there's what we call budgets, budget creation, right? This should be budget execution, right? Someone like to say implementation. So this will be budgets. Let's say implementation. I mean, this is not absolute. This is not absolute. That's not why that's what I'm saying. There's not it's not definite. I mean, it's just me just thinking of okay, we can actually just bring it down. So this will act as your budget, obviously. Execution will you be checking out. Then at some point you probably need to know, okay, are they doing the right thing on it, right? So let's leave that for that. That's what's me thinking outside the box of something, right? Then, okay, we'll not talk about audit today because audit is like a different topic on its own, right? Which majorly translates to um, checking the not efficacy, but checking that the money was actually spent right. You know how you go to the market and you buy things and you just see, oh, I want to buy so and so and so. Um, let me and you buy it at the end of the day and you come back and you be like, yes, I got this, I got that, I got this, I got that. Then let me check if I actually spent my money right, if there's some things I missed out and stuff like that. So that's how audit works, right? Then, so let us start. So we'll obviously come back. Maybe our next practical section, we'll sit down with audit and now help you understand how to query the audit document and get story out of it. So this will mean that if we have to check all these contract processes, we need to know the institutions that we can get some of all these files from. And that will lead me to this part of my screen where we now understand this. If you're with me, say yeah, yeah. Oh, nobody can say yeah, yeah. I mean, just drop a chat or let me know that you're with me. Oh, sorry, I was talking and I didn't. Okay. Did someone type yeah, yeah? Oh, someone type yeah, yeah. All right, so then we begin to understand what audit means, right? What budget means. Like I said, I will not talk about it. We would like to call it the ABC of government. That does not literally mean that this is how it is arranged, right? Now, how do we now work with our budget? Let's just go to this part. Right? This will get every of the budget documents from the budget office of the Federation, which is always managed by the Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning. I think, did they change it under this administration? I think it was Buhari that added economic plan to it. Forgotten that, but I think they've just changed the name. But at the end of the day, budget office of the Federation is what controls that, right? You can easily just go to budgetoffice.gov.ng. You realize that someone saying something. Someone said, yeah, yeah. You realize that every of Nigerian website is always controlled by .gov.ng, right? So that's not the thing to say. And you just scroll down. Right? This will give you an outline to what you said. Now, should I talk about this MTTF, which is no, I'm not talking about it. Let's leave it. Let's leave it. Because I started now, it's another thing. Right? So you find budget documents here, you find the implementation documents here. C'est bon? Oui, c'est bon. So let's just open that. Right? And you begin to, I mean, you can find almost all the documents that you need. Yeah. Yeah. Spoiler. Spoiler alert, it's not everything that is there. So there are all those 65 documents inside this place. I mean, you see 65 documents, but then you get to see a lot of repetitive stuff, right? There used to be a time it was under Obasanjo and Jonathan. Right? I think it was early Obasanjo Jonathan or Jonathan, I've forgotten. One of them, So they always group the budget. Unlike now where the whole budget is just contained in 2,000 something pages grouped together. They always divide it by ministry. All right. I don't know who started it. It was Obasanjo or Jonathan that started it. So if you go down to things like 2030, right, that's why you're having all these 56 documents here. You see the budget for ministry of this, the budget for ministry of that, ministry of that. Now, because you have all of those things, it means that if you want to check it, you can say as accountant general, and at the end of the day, you are not, it's Ministry of Finance you are seeing here, which is how we need to now start speaking to how we ensure that there's a framework of putting correct databases on this, because so they used to split it before, but now they've just, I spoke to a colleague once said now they are doing easy job. So I mean we can just easily just speak out if this now you need to understand that budget is always of two phases. There's the proposed, there's the approved, right? There's also the supplementary. Let me write it down here. So budget is of two phases, right? Let me write it somewhere here. So there's proposed, there's approved. You know this already. There's supplementary, right? Proposed, obviously, it has not been approved yet. It goes to the National Assembly, then it gets approved, right? Then it gets signed or assented. Right? Supplementary is always okay. We have gotten to the half of the year. And I think one of those that started supplementary very well was Buhari. Especially in the last 4 tenure, right? Late President Mohammed Buhari. In his last 4 tenure, he started a lot of supplementary, right? So we said we're going to spend 50 trillion, but now because of the economic and stuff, there's high inflation, dollars, this, that, we want to add extra 5 trillion to it, right? So the total budget for that year will be 55 trillion. Are you getting it? Right? So that's how to understand supplementary. So it's just them filling up, it's more of filling up the blank. All right. So I mean you have what you will see here. Sometimes you see things like act and bill. Act means that it is signed, right? Bill means that it is not signed. So by act meaning that it is the approved, by bill meaning that it is the proposed, right? Have you seen proposed, right? So when you begin to see act, which is approved, right? And you can easily just click on any of them. I don't know how this would show in time. Okay, let's leave that so that let's see if it's still loading so that we can see if we can pick one or two thoughts from that. All right. The same thing works for. All right. So this is, oh no, this is the summary. This is the summary. Because I was surprised that you actually opened on time. It's actually the summary. Let us pick any random one. All right. Same way we can actually go to check we can actually go to check what the BIR. So BIR shows the implementation report by quarter. That if the government said it's going to spend 20 trillion this year, it means that for every quarter, every three months, the government is planning to spend at least four. You know? 20 divided by 4 is 5. Okay. At least 5 trillion every month. Sorry, every three months. So in the first quarter, 5 trillion, second quarter, 5 trillion, third quarter, 5 trillion, which will obviously make 20 trillion at the end of the day. Right. So how much in that quarter, in that 5 trillion did the federal government spend? Did it spend above the money dedicated for that quarter or spent below it? Right? Oh. Can you see my screen? Please confirm if you can see my screen. And tell me what you're seeing. Because it looks like everything. Oh, please, can you confirm if you can see my screen? Tell me what you're seeing. Okay.
Yes, it's
Someone
showing
in
the
the chat.
Budget Office of Federation, the 2018 Budget Implementation Report.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. So someone quickly asked, and please, if you have a question, just throw it inside. How do we trace budget application to constituency projects for rep and senators? For rep and senators, yeah. So I would, okay, maybe I should just come and talk about that before we move. How do we trace, someone is asking, how do we trace budgetary allocation, that's capital expenditure for constituency projects? There's what we call the zonal intervention projects. Zonal what? Intervention projects. Let me see if I can help us out here. Zonal intervention projects. So I'm going to stop sharing now. Coming. Let me see if I have zip. I think I should have one. At least I should have the recent one. Just a minute. So that we can, okay. So I've seen it. Let me see if I can share this screen with you. Let's hold on. I never really see my screen. My screen is visible, right? So this is one way that you can actually track zonal projects, right? Especially constituency projects, all those constituency things that they're always using to lie for us, right? Zonal intervention projects are always 100 million, sorry, 100 billion in a year. That is spread across different ministries, or in some of those different ministries is now understanding how they are delimited to a particular state. Now, there's a trick to this. So let's see it. Because it's indicting in such a way. There's a trick to this, which is indicting. Okay, let me not see it. Because this video is a public video. It's going to be uploaded. So when it comes to come from my head. Right? So if you check every Ministry of Agric, you'll see that Ministry of Agric is dedicated 50 something trillion. Now, if you begin to check all of this one after the other, right, you see training of livestock production in Tanke, blah, 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 in where? Kano State. So it means this project was facilitated by a lawmaker from Kano State. And it's going to be directed by the MDA, and this is this, right? Katsina State, facilitated by another. What I want to say, I said it in a subtle way, right? I said it in a subtle way. I didn't directly say what I want to say so that it will not come from my head. Right, so this is how you can track it. Now, automatically, I've not even gotten to tracking, but I'm just showing you that this file exists, right? This for 2025, so you can see, find 2024, find 2023. Now, what some people have always done is that they don't always make this public because they know that this way, I'm restricting myself so hard. They know that this is where you can, hook their hand very well, right? How do you track it? I've not gotten to tracking yet because tracking it obviously means that you're tracking the whole budget. Someone send the chat. In what particular sub-head can we easily know that this is a zonal intervention? So zonal intervention project is always part of like the budget, right? Let me show you something. In early years, I think in like 2021 or so, then they ran back, right? You will see it that this is the government budget. Let me see. Even write it here. Then this is the zonal intervention project. These days now, they kind of structurally hide it because they know people are already getting sensitive to tracking them, right? So as far back as, let me see if it's 2017, you should be able to see zonal intervention project out of the budget, right? But right now, they try to like combine everything together. Is when we, implementation, sorry. I was wondering why I was not seeing what I wanted to see. So now they just combine everything together. Sometimes you will find zonal intervention project as the last page of the original project document. Right? So how we saw it was me. How I got access to it is I got the original project documents, right? And we saw the intervention project back. So yeah, you would always see it. You saw the way that thing came out, 2025 zonal intervention project, you always see it. Right? Have you seen? Right? Signed zonal intervention project. If you view this, you will see the signed project. Let's see if it will load up. Aha, this was the appropriation budget I wanted to see before, right? So blah blah was signed, blah was signed. Then you now begin to have all these ones are still like something. Then now begin to have, are you seeing all the ministries going one after each other? Right? Now, a lot of time, what's the government these days now started doing? What the government has started doing is that you can see that this thing is not readable. By its meaning is not readable, I can't do anything, I can't copy anything, right? They always like scan the copy and put it online. So sometimes you have to use some extracting tools, like a lot of them. I think I love PDFs, small PDFs, some Adobe Illustrators. There are some Excel extracting tools that probably helps you converting this. Sorry about that. That's probably helps you converting these documents into a very good spreadsheet that you can now begin to, right? So I'm not sure. Okay, let's leave that to another second practical class. Maybe I might show you how you can convert one of these things so that it can also help you, right? I'm hoping that this zonal intervention project opens. Okay, so let's go back to this, right? I've spoken to you on how you can just go to the project office of presentation, get your project, begin to work on it, right? You probably, if you don't see it in an Excel sheet or if you good PDFs, you probably need to go and start downloading or cleaning or extracting. It's actually not hard because there are a lot of extracting tools that are actually free, right? So you can just go there, download what you need to download, put the extracting tool on it, and you just move, right? All right. Then we move to FAQ. Where do we get FAQ documents from? Right? Usually, in data files, we've actually created an allocation. We've actually created a dashboard that shows FAQ allocations by different. So if you want, you can come here to just expand it. Right? You can come here to expand it. Like I said, FAQ allocation is always given to at least 3 levels. Federal government has a share, state government has a share, the local government also has a share, right? So I think we created this for state and local government. So you can also always come to filter it. Let me know if you are seeing my screen as full as this, please. Just comment in the chat. So I kind of expanded the dashboard. Let me see if you're seeing. Okay, yes, very good. Right, so you can just come to our FAQ website. Let me see if I can copy the site for you. Just drop it on the chat box. Can you help us with these links to the budget website? Yeah. Obviously, you can just go to budget office. let me see if I can copy that. So this goes for you, right? So I was making reference to our fact dashboard, right? So it means you can just filter what is here and just say, oh, I want to know how much was dedicated to Abia State, right? The total allocation. So it has like different pages that you can actually stream to. Let me remove this filter. Okay, I think this is the next page. So it's about like 7 pages, right? This is just, I mean, our own trend analysis. This is what we call the dashboard. Unfortunately, I'm not teaching how to create a dashboard today. If you want to learn how to do this, sign up for, send us an email at DataFight Academy. We'll teach you. It's costly, but then we'll teach you. There's a cost attached to it. So I can easily just filter by LGA, filter by year, what year. I think we have this updated to 2025 year. I think 2025 February, which is what is still on their website. Right, fact is always released every month, but then. So then you can always just go back to say, okay, let me understand how much it is. One story you can actually do from this, and maybe I should put it out to everybody, is so remember this time, I think it was June or July last year, right? Local government came out and they gave local government autonomy, right? To say you guys can now start directly accessing your money. Before, what's always happened? Alleged. Before my head is come for allegedly, what always happened before is that they say when the money is given, state governments marshal it. I mean, they don't give local government. Now the local government fought and won in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court gave them autonomy, which gave them full access to their money. So you can easily just come here and check between last year, June, and this year, how much has this particular local government gotten? And how has that money, single story there, how has that money improved essential services? Like, what are really the basic things that local government are supposed to handle? Things like primary health care, right? Portable water, and stuff. Now, if the local government said they've been getting money, at least they've been receiving their money between last year to this year. So that's a quick one. So we can easily just pick, let's say, Abia State, right? And select for, let's say, just for 2024. Go to your slicers. These are what we call slicers. It helps you in free training, right? And let's just understand, oh, in Abia State, this is how much it got, right? We can obviously filter by months too, right? But I'm not doing Abia State. I want to do it for local governments, right? Let me select the state and say let me know it's Abia so that it doesn't look as I'm just doing Abia. In Lagos, at least I know Lagos very well. For 2024, 2024. So let's say between June and December, how much did that local government create? I mean, get so June. So we just come tick, 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 and tick, right? Then we going to see that, okay, I think he got a total allocation of this between that 4 months, between that 6 months, right? June to December should be about 6 or 5 months. Okay, I think it's about 6, 7 months, right? These are the top states that got, top local government that got the money. Are you seeing them? Right now, this is the money, and this is running into billions, right? 11 billion, 12 billion, 15 billion. So how has that billions of naira helped improve things like accessible portable water, accessible primary health care center in their local government? Like you just pick the fact allocation, despite collecting this local government still suffers from this. It automatically puts transparency or accountability on the local government that you're collecting this amount. Two things is happening. Is that you're collecting the amount and you're not doing your work, or you're not collecting the amount at all, which will obviously lead you into two stories. If you're not collecting the amount at all, the federal government, the states, the Supreme Court are giving autonomy and access to your money, right? Automatically, it means that you can always, that money is coming into your coffers. So why didn't you do it? So if they say you're not collecting the money, why is the money not coming to you? It's another story like that. Okay, now you're collecting the money. Why have you not implemented or improved healthcare in this particular society? So at one point, you need to go down to local government to understand the architecture of what they were created for. They now push it to how, yeah, they can help. So if this is a clear info on allocation of it, is there a clear document on what budget expend on what their budget and expectation is? Yes, some local government actually always give their budgets for the year, right? You really don't always just sit, which is something that probably needs to start advancing. But you see federal government allocations, you see state government allocations. Why don't we actually see local government allocations? Right? Some local government, even I know I saw Lagos last 2 months come out to say one of the local governments say we are going to be spending so amounts this year. We're going to be spending so amounts. But that's like the best I've ever heard from many local governments. I've not seen any of them come out like this. Because they also do presentation, right? To say, okay, this is how much you're going to spend, this is what we're going to use it for, this is what local government chairman does it, but then you don't see it, right? So please give me 1 or 2 minutes. Let me just get water. I think I'm dehydrated because I've talked too much. Just 1 or 2 minutes. Let me get water and then we'll come back.
All right. While Kenny is away, you have any questions or contributions or any topic you would like us to talk about, please drop it in the chat box. If you have questions so far on what has been said, if you have comments, if there are areas where you need clarity or topics that you want us to cover that Kenny hasn't talked about, please drop it in the chat box so that we can talk about it when he's back. Thank you. So there is a question in the chat. I don't know, is this a new question from Noah Aderoju? And the question is, if there is a clear info on the allocation for the LGA, is there a clear document on what their budget expenditures are? So good question. Kenny would respond to this question. But let's keep the questions coming in. If you have any question or comments or topics that you'd like Kenny to talk about before the end of this training, please feel free to add it in the chat box. Okay, there's another question by Abdul Aziz Okonlawon. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but please apologize if I butchered your name. But yeah, so the question is, will Power BI training be also touched in this workshop? So in this training, is not centered on Power BI. This training is centered on how you can understand or you can learn how to analyze budget or governance, in general, governance data set, right? So we're not specifically touching Power BI. what Kenny is doing is making reference to the Power BI dashboards that we've built at DataFight. But we do offer Power BI trainings. So if you are interested in learning Power BI, you can reach out to us, and then we can set up a training for you and other participants that are interested. So there's another question from Abubakar Suleiman. Please, what better int can give us when it comes to translating the data we found? Okay, good question. There's the last one here. I'm trying to get the LG allocation display as Prof. Kenny achieved there. Can we go over that again? All right, so I think Kenny is ready now. So I'll pass the mic to him so that I can answer the remaining questions. Over to you, Kenny.
All right, sorry about that. Probably talking for so long, so let's just take something. Right, so back to what we're saying. So let me go back to all the questions. Yeah, we offer Power BI training. I mean, you can always send us a mail and we book a class for you. Someone said, what better hint can you give us when it comes to translating the data we found? So it depends on what data you're working on. Probably tell me which data you are working on. Then we can just discuss it right here. Right? At what point can we bring out stories from this data? I mean, I've just even given you just a free one right now. Everybody can go here and begin to pick one local government, right? Especially where you live around and see, okay, this money has been dedicated to this and this and this and this. Check it, it relates, and which takes me back essentially to this that we are creating, right? Now, at one point, let's take for instance, we're talking about healthcare or electricity. We've been using electricity since this morning, right? If you want to implement this, it means that, like I said, money has to be released. But if you understand that money is also going to the local government, because at one point, like I said, in decentralizing policies, aside from making an example, is also making an example of who are going to carry out that work, right? So if the local government has a mandate around addressing uh, primary health care, it also fits into this policy implementation of the federal government, right? Which also means that if money has been released in their monthly FAR and it is not being put to address this issue, there's a problem. So it's more of how you can find all the lines to connect everything, right? So I was displaying the fact that's what I'm just telling you how you can just go over. Already I am seeing, I've already seen, okay, in Ikeja, there was 10 billion allocated. Can I question this? I can write an FOI to the LD chairman of Ikeja and tell me, okay, in the last how many months, tell me how you spent this money, right? I can look for every social issues that are happening in Ikeja and say, okay, this guy has received this particular money, but there's still these social issues that are still happening. The street of Ikeja is unsecure. The this of that is unsafe. And primary healthcare centers don't even have access to water, right? This is just literally me telling you that you can just go online and write what is the mandate of local government chairman. Okay, local government, right? Let's see if their AI tool. The service review is already around, okay, look at local transportation, waste management, water sanitation, maintaining of public public spaces, right? Now, I know a community in Lagos, right, that is always very dirty. You see waste being disposed on the streets. and you have a local government chairman there that's supposed to manage waste, collecting billion. So how much of that amount, right, is going into ensuring that we can reduce waste in that community? And you have just done a good story that ties allocation, right, to core effective mandates down to how it affects the policy framework, and you're good to go, right? Okay, let's leave FAC. Let's go to IGR, right? So IGR is always just the tax that are generated by year. Unfortunately, the NBS website used to have this, right? So if you go to their website and probably just filter by IGR, you will see how much is dedicated by. Let's hope that it will work today. Everybody say a prayer. It worked though. Try IGR generated at state level for 2023. Right? Come here. Download. I always like to download tables because it helps me maneuver everything. But let's just download the report so that you can see how it looks like. I always like to download the table. The table gives you a broader picture of how that is being generated. Some of the taxes that were collected, things like road tax, pay as you earn, and a lot of those taxes. Right? And you just pick any of these documents and just read, okay, see what I was talking about. All the forms of taxes that are being generated by the government, that makes up the IGR, which is the internally generated revenue, road tax, pay as you earn, other tax, NDA revenue. I was trying to remember that. Right? So it means that ABIA generated a total tax of what? Can you see my screen? Please confirm if you can see my screen. Generated a total tax of someone. Okay. Generated a total tax of what? This is 23 billion in what? 2023. Now let me give you a scoop around telling stories. Right? Someone asked that. Now, especially when it comes to states, right? There's what we call financial viability. I did pitch. Sorry. There's what we call financial viability, especially when it comes to what states. Let me copy this out for you. Let me explain what financial viability is for states. All right. Now, this is always given by what? The federal, so we can just put empty for states. This is always made internally. Right? Taxes internally. Let's say taxes internally. Right? Why this is, what they collect outside. Let's put collected outside. Now, naturally, if a state will tell you that it is spending, and please be ready to use your chat box to now, 30 billion in 2025. So Gombe state said you want to spend as its budget, right? Gombe, for example, said you want to spend 30 billion as what? As budget. One would expect that this 30 billion, like I said, is made up of what? All this allocation. So if you expect that in that particular year, it will receive loan and grants, it will generate tax, it will also receive allocation from the government. All of this money at least should amount to 30 billion that it should use towards paying on that particular state. Like I said, there's what we call state viability. Naturally, if a state is viable, it should generate more tax Because at the end of the day, all these ones, loans and grants becomes what? Debt. Abi? This one, it does not have definite amounts. That is, federal government can give you not definite in amounts. That is, federal government can come and give you 2 billion today, and tomorrow it will give you 1 billion. Depends on how much what they make. Depends on what amount they make. This is debt. If you can collect and you can repay, some people will say, you have collected too much, we are not giving you. Some people will say, sir, I'm sorry, we cannot, anyhow that you want it, right? People would determine if they would give you the debt or not. So naturally, a state is supposed to depend on what? This. Are you getting what I'm saying? At least depend. A viable state is supposed to make its budget rely on what? Taxes. So how industrious is the state, right? In collecting of all these taxes. It means that if the state is industrious, it means it's generating those taxes. So you have states like Lagos, Ogun, Rivers, Delta, Abuja generating more taxes because they are industrial states, right? But you find most of these states, example, Bayelsa, I think UB too is part of them, that they actually depend, this all of their projects, they actually depend on what? Federal government and loans more than they actually depend on tax. Do you understand what I just said? I called it what? Financial what? Viability. Right? Now, one of the stories that you can begin to tell is look at your primary state. Is your state financially viable? If you pick 30 billion in that particular state, if you say that I want to spend 30 billion next year, how much of tax contributes to that 30 billion? Right? It means that if you go and check antecedents, that is one of the ways you can actually crack data. If you go and check antecedents, go back to this and say, in 2023, what was the state budget? Right? Now see how much it generated in tax. How much, if we can go back to this our fact dashboard and say, how much which state were we looking at? Abia, I mean? How much did Abia? Thank you. Someone said I should show them practical, so I'm already showing the practical right now. Please look. How much the Abia generates as tax as a FAC allocation? How much did it collect as FAC allocation in 2023? Total allocated. Right, this is it. So it's generated what? 76 points. It was allocated in 2023, it was allocated 76.32 billion. Right? 76 for what? 32 billion. What how this story is developing? 76 point what? 32. Where's that we're using? So Abia, our example. Abia. FAC allocation was what? 76.32 billion in 2023. I mean, IGR was 23 point what? 23.73 billion. 3.73. So let me remove this billion so that we're able to add it. Hey, we will spend the billions. So in total, I didn't calculate loan. Right? I didn't plan I was going to do data analysis for. So in total, Abia had a total of 99.69 billion. Let me confirm this fact again. I want to be sure that I'm not affecting any command that is wrong. It's good to go. All right. Now let's just go online and say how much did Abia budget as budget for 2023? Or how much was Abia budget for? Have you seen he budgeted how much? 160. This was how much he budgeted. 160 billion. This was how much he got. Now, with this, is Abia State viable? Is it a viable state or is not a viable state? And why? Raise up your hand, request for the mic if you want to talk. If you don't want to talk, put it on your chat box. Is Abia State a viable state? Yes or no? Why? Not a viable state because it ran deficits. How? Don't use big grammar for me. Sorry, John. I always feel like people like to use big grammars. Don't use big grammars for us. Tell me what's meaning of deficit. Any other person? I feel like I should call names. Oh, okay. We are all on mute. We cannot unmute ourselves. Oh, can we
You can call the
potentially
name. You can call the name. I will unmute the person.
can we plus potentially give anybody mic to just or everybody mic to speak so that one or two person can just unmute themselves just temporarily? Because I know the stress of actually typing that long thing. I want to hear someone explain. Noah is
Yes, I've done that.
talk.
I've done that.
So please unmute yourself, talk quickly.
Oh yeah, so looking at it, just layman calculation now. Their budget was about 160 billion, and their allocation for the year and their even effort of return generation is less than 100 billion. So they still have like a deficit of 61 billion or so. So if they had projected to do something like huge amount, that 61 billion is like a huge percent of what they want to do, and that means they will not be able to do it for that year. Or even if they want to spend money or fund things, they won't get that 61 billion to fund the things that they want to do. So I don't think they are not viable like that.
I know, I agree. I know, I know, agree.
Another thing is that if they want to fund those things with this calculation, that they will have to like borrow more or start seeking funding from X year and things like that.
You're almost there, but I still don't agree. You're almost there, but I still don't agree. Another person wants to talk. Is Abia a viable state? Yes or no? Noah, you're almost there. Very, very close. Well, I still don't agree. Is Abia a viable state? Yes or no? Any other person? Someone has unmuted themselves, but they're not talking. Okay, so that will not waste everybody's time. But this is it. And I'll pick it up from where Noah stopped, right? Yes, they are not a viable state. Remember that I only put FACA and IGR here. I didn't put loan. So they might actually have collected loan that year, right? We might probably go to DMO now and check how much they actually collect in 2023, probably minus, right? Which will make them fund this budget. But like I said, viability is not about if you have money to spend, if you have money to fund the budget. It is more of how much of your own money are you spending on the budget. Did you get? How much of your own money are you spending on your budget? So let me explain it in real time. You want to celebrate your birthday. Your budget for your birthday is 300,000, right? You have in your savings, all you have in your savings is 50,000. Your parents, which is your father at this point, now decide to give you 100,000, which is 150. Then you loan from someone, maybe one big auntie or something. You loan another 150, and you did your birthday very well that year. Can you boldly tell me that you are a rich person? No, you're not rich, because more than half of what you spent was not your money, right? You ran on the support of, you can't say your birthday was, as much as you say your birthday was successful, yes, your birthday was successful, but you are not a rich person, you are not a rich kid, you are a Lapo baby. What do they call that thing right now that I don't understand? Right? You're a Lapo baby or a Lapo kid, right? Because more than half of what you spent was not your money. After the birthday, you are still going to give back the 150. You are still having a 150 outside debt. That's if you don't even have interest, right? And your parents is still feeding you. So it's the same thing for Abia State. The federal government is still feeding it here. It's not even generating that much. So it means that, like you have minus, you still have a standing of 61,000. So 61 billion, sorry, would also be borrowed from outside for you to achieve that. So Abia is not a viable state. So for viability, it means how much of your state or of your own personal money are you spending, right? What should happen is that so by default, it means that Abia is actually depending. If Abia decides that it's not going to borrow this year, right? The depend of its budget for that year is on federal government. If you just be praying that federal government give us more money, that's the only way they can achieve that particular amount. If federal government decides not to give them money, they are gonna. Because 23 million is not even up to half. It's not maybe 30% of the total money you want to spend. So if federal government say throughout this year we are not giving you money, every loan agency too, both international and local, say they are not lending you money, they are not going to achieve anything they are going to achieve in that particular state. Maybe they'll just use the money which might not even be used to even pay up to salaries. Have everybody understood viability right now? Just drop on the chat box. If you understand viability right now, right? Very good. So that's how you can get your stories, right? Someone asked me of how you can get stories, right? And I've just given you one, like looking at viability, right? I can begin to pick another state, as much as that, right? No, I'm going to soon be rounding up. I should be rounding up in about 15 minutes. I know there's a lot of practical we have not done. Like this is just the theoretical part. In the second part of it, that we'll not be doing practical into crunching all of these numbers, right? Then grant and loans. I just talked about DMO. You can obviously click on the DMO and get their website, right? The debt management office, right? You can just come to me. So they manage everything. So you can just come here. Domestic and external debt. Domestic debt are debt borrowed internally, right? External debt are debt what borrowed from this. So how much of domestic debt? So this domestic and external debt here are actually for federal government. So if you go to subnational, right, you will see for the state government there. Someone asks a question. Okay, just commenting. Right? And you can also see okay, this is as of what? March 2025. Right? If you open and download this now, just see, okay, these are the domestic debt. So have you seen how much Abia is owing? Yeah. Right? And you can begin to crunch the numbers by this and just say, if Abia population is 5 million, right? How much does everybody in Abia owes if how much domestic debt does everybody in Abia has to repay if everybody were to repay that money? I mean, that's just a simple breaking the numbers into meaningful sense that you can do, right? Probably the last slide I'm showing you, right? So I've just moved into states. talked about states, right? This is more of a federal government thing, right? Have you started here where you can get audit reports, state budget reports, contract portals, and budget implementation report? But some part of it that you might need to connect really is how, like I was speaking the other time, how you need to connect budgets to contracts. So if you pick any random budget, let's see if this our budget has opened. Okay, someone that was asking me for zip the other time, have you seen it? Just like the one I showed you. This one is zip for 2019. Right? Like I said, zip is always how much? Zonal intervention project is always how much? 100 billion. Right? So it is being splitted across. So we can go away with this. Now, how do you understand? How do you understand? How do you move from this words to this? Right? Is understanding all of this. Let me explain in clear terms. Right? All of these are, I'm trying to get to the beginning of this. These are just recurrent expenditures. Capital expenditures are the ones that carry codes and the likes. What's the meaning do? Yeah, I was noticing that it's going to be Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I the one that have long thing. Right. So it's simple things like their code, what they want to do, provision of what solar lights within this thing is going to be provided by. Have you seen that time I was telling you about electricity? Look at solar lights now. The Ministry of Agric. Is what type of project, a new project, how much was dedicated for it? 50,000. Right? You can almost go back to track every of these things by the Nigerian Open Contracting Portal, NOCOPO, which is managed by the Bureau of Public Procurement, BPP. Right? Is it Nigeria or national? If I big argue. Okay, it's Nigeria. Okay, I'm actually correct. It's Nigeria. I thought it was national. Now, this is a database, one of the very most useful database for CSOs and government institutions and media practitioners is how you can now see every of these keywords. Right? The only problem with this database is that it's too bulky. Today you open it. Sometimes my name open because there's a lot of numbers on it. The second problem is that it's downloading it in JSON, which is somewhat not a readable format to download. The best readable format is that you are downloading in Excel, PDF, or Word. But this is JSON, right? You need some tech level, Python, something to script and code it, right? Another agency managed by budgets called Gospel helps you to develop an API such that it can sync what is here into here. So you necessarily don't even have to always go here or if I come here. But then I always like to use it too because I always like to verify. So you can randomly just pick an MDA, let's say solar lights. And search for it. Right? This should give us step by step to showing us that how many times have you seen the code, installation of solar lights, or installation and furnishing of hospitals. This is one of the reasons I don't like it. I don't go and bring what is not even part of what you search for. The date that it was implemented or date that it was published here, the package number, how many, then the budget year 2023. Obviously, you can always filter by light and filter by this and that, but then at the end of the day, the whole idea beyond this being readable is how much you can even get it from here. So if I go to things like Explore here, gospel.com, and I put the whole solar links, let's see what it will give me. Right, can you see my screen? So I always say that each of these columns is a story on its own. right? Each of what? Each column is a story on its own. From the NDA to the beneficiary to the amounts to the description to the amounts that was paid, right? Meaning that this NDA paid 7 point something million to this to carry out what this. Now, I can question this amount. First, I even can start from the back and say, okay, what was the project meant for? It was meant for this inverter, right? If I want to put a social value to it, is to find the community. Let's see if we can find the community where this exists and begin to do stories like, oops, was that project constructed, right? Was it constructed well? Was it managed well? Everything was it fixed? Is it now providing light to people? Right? Beyond that, I can take it a little bit step further and say, okay, what's really the basic need of that community? So that one government is not just coming here and not saying we have fulfilled dividends of democracy, constructing light for people that need water, or constructing road for people that need farm, right? Those are social issues that you can use to augment some of this database, this data set, sorry, which moves again towards the amount, right? You can really want to question the amount to say two ways you can question it. Number one is check the actual budget amount for that project and relate it down to the contract amount. Now, by default, like I've explained earlier, the contract amount is not supposed to be what higher than the budget amount. So if it is higher, there's what a section of what corruption, right? The second part is that was the money well spent? Right? You remember when our Minister of FCT said that he spent 30 billion on innovation or something like that. Everybody began to spend this thing. But how do you spend that much billion on innovation? Right? Not that you're building from top, just innovating. Right? If you have invested that money in things like education, things like healthcare, we really have also done impact a lot of people. Why do we spend money doing something? So it's the same thing like I always use to work, question amounts, right? Is there any justifiable reason why we had to give that money? Right? You can move down to what's beneficiary. Who has the company? Is the company related to any political service holder or something like that? If it is, then you can fly it out because automatically what it means is that they are giving projects to people that are not they are giving projects to people that are not qualified for it, right? So you can check things like the CAC, you can check things like CAC and say, okay, is this project actually registered? Is this company related to any politician? Hope it's not that they are approving project and approving it for themselves. Those are a level of search that you can begin to do. Go to CAC, just put this company name on top of it and ask if it's even registered. Let's see who are the beneficial owners of the company, right? Down to also the MDA. The MDA is also another part that you can do. Look at the idea of this mandate of this project, right? Does it relate to the mandate of the MDA? Right? So that it's not that Ministry of Agri is building road for you. Ministry of Health is installing solar street lights for you, or Ministry of Work and Housing is or Ministry of Works or Ministry of Water Resources is building hospital, right? Those are like 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 stories I've said just by looking at one column, one column, one column, one column, one column. At this point, I want to ask, is there any question? At this point, is there any question?
Yeah. Thank you so much. I don't know if you can hear me.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the insightful session so far. So my question is that what about can you just lay emphasis on because this is just a federal government open contract. What about the state open contract? Because the last time I checked the Oyo State open contract, so they updated it was not 2022 or 2021. So I think there is a lot of questions needs to be asked because they are yet majority of state open contract they are yet to be updated on their portal. So that's one of the key we need to address. I don't know if you can shed light on it. Thank you.
Yeah, so two things. Number one is that yes, I know a lot of states open contract database are actually functioning. The reason actually they created it was because there was one grant one time like that World Bank said that if they create it, they will get it. All of them went to go and rush and create something and just put it on it. Now they've gotten the grant, they've run away. So yeah, there are some states that are still following theirs. There are some you won't find a lot of them. We're trying to build a database too in Dataset called Amfani that helps us track a lot of these portals, especially at state level. Right? We are still building on it. And I can tell you our major challenge is the fact that we don't have access to this database or this data set because, I mean, you won't find them, right? So yes, but each state have their own procurement portals, right? Whether they have now updated it or not, we can't always. If they have updated it, fine. You can always do your level of analysis. You can probably send an FOI to them, right? Or even do a story. The fact that they've not even updated it for more than 3 years is also a story that you can do. And how that in does transparency and accountability. If we just know that in the last 3 years we spent so amount of billion, but we don't know where they spent it on. Why don't we know where they spent it on? Because the state is not opening to say this is and this and this is how we spent the money. Did you get that? Any other question? Any other question? Okay, nobody's typing anything. So I think I should round up on this point so that the next practical we're going to now be seeing is how we can create the interlinks between all these portals that we have opened, right?
We have not
How do
explained the
we,
open
how
treasury.
do we, who is talking?
I don't know if I missed that one. Open treasury. Have you explained about open treasury?
Yeah. Okay, so yeah. Oh, thank you for reminding me that. So open treasury, these guys, they have issue. Open treasury also shows how money is actually being spent, right? My question is, when we write that story, how are we going to get it to them for revert? What kind of story are you talking about? Is it the one where I thought that they are not publishing their open contracting? How are we going to get them to revert for it? I mean, the story is already for them to respond to it. Try to publish it on a very, very big medium, right? And see if they will not respond, right? So Open Treasury also does the same thing on monitoring projects, right? Especially MD accountability. MD to say, okay, this is how much you spent in quarters. This one still don't always update their data sets. I will fight with them one day, right? So if you come somewhere here and click on MD, right, and click on any of these years, right, you will see how much was dedicated by year, how much they are spending by year and quarters. And so, so amounts, Ministry of something has gotten this, Ministry of this has gotten that, Ministry of that has gotten this, Ministry of this has gotten that. That's how I'm trying to open one. I think there's one I've opened before. Let me see if I can find it for us. So that opening now is taking our time. Let me stop sharing and reshare. Okay. So are you seeing it? For the first quarter project performance by administrator, right? The presidency, this is total amount. I think this was 2024. Total amount, first quarter is spent this amount, right? Budget balance, then the percentage of how much is spent. Yeah, predicting it or something like that. Forgetting what this means. But what you're useful is, okay, this is total amount. The MDA said they're going to spend 40 billion this month. How much in this first quarter have it been released? That helps you to track things like, you remember when we were talking about power? So imagine that not up to 100. I remember doing a story sometimes last year or last 2 years that every state governments were dedicating money for something, but they were not releasing money for it, right? Not all of them, as at the second quarter when flooding was, not all of them has actually released money for to address that particular issues. Yet they created it for in their budget. So it's something you can actually do to say, which is what Open Treasury does, right? More of how do we track MD's disbursement by quarter, right? Open Treasury does that, right? Sometimes their website can be actually a little bit funny, but then they do that. And that probably comes to the end of what I'm going to be teaching today. Let me see if you have any question again. I'm still on the call. We're going to be handing over to Paul, who's going to run you through our digital aspects of data fights and how you can sign up on some of these tools. Some of you I know you have, but then we have to run it for those who are just newly joining us in a few minutes, right? And if you have still if you have any question, I'm here to answer. Paul, over to you.
Thank you, Kenny, and thank you everyone for joining us for this insightful session. So I'll be sharing my screen now. Please confirm if you can see my screen. It should be up on your device right now. So I'm here to talk to you about our platform, GoLocal, that we developed to make access to data easy and seamless. So I would like to ask us if we've ever participated or if we have anybody on the call that has ever participated in a data collection project before. Have you ever traveled or journeyed, whether it's the next street or the next town? Have you ever gone or contributed to a data collection project before? If you have, just drop it in the chat box. Just say yes, I have in the chat box. So data collection is a process whereby you have to maybe interview someone or submit a survey by sharing your opinion, your understanding, and what you can see around you. And now, to make that process easy and seamless for organizations that need data and for contributors, people that are interested in providing data, we've developed this platform called GoLocal, our AI-powered infrastructure for data collection from the last mile. And as you can see, what does GoLocal do? In the simplest way, GoLocal helps organizations achieve reliable and targeted data collection and insight through its flexible platform and vast contributor network. Now, as I've said, the challenge with collecting data as it is now, using other tools or other platforms, is that it is challenging for organizations to collect data, right? Because it's a slow process, and it's expensive. So those of us that we've participated in the data collection process would understand this. If you have to travel from, take for example, Abuja to Kano to collect data on how farmers, maybe those that are farming, or those that are in rice farming, for example, or onions farming. If you need to talk to them, if you need to get data on how they are faring or the process of their farming, their business, and all of that, it's time consuming because you have to plan your journey to Kano from Abuja. It's expensive because you have to plan the trip, right? And then you have to pay people. If you don't understand Hausa, you have to pay people that will translate for you or that will speak on your behalf. And aside from that, if you are not a local, if you are not an indigene of that community, you will need to get someone to show you around. So all of these issues are what is hindering organizations that are currently using other platforms to collect data. But now with Go Local, you can collect data from your mobile phone without having to travel to any location. You can visualize the data you've collected to get insight from it. And then you can even pay people that are collecting the data for you in Kano without having to leave Abuja. And lastly, we have our AI verification, whereby the data they give you is being checked by AI and validated even by you to ensure that whoever you are paying is giving you the accurate data. Now, GoLocal serves two groups of users, just like I've explained. We have the organizations, those that collect data they need by connecting with GoLocal network of contributors. So you are interested in collecting data in any community on any subject or any topic. You can do that on GoLocal. And then the second group is the contributors. The contributors are those that contribute to campaign surveys and earn income from it. Now, let me show you the features that sets GoLocal apart from other data collection platforms that you are familiar with. We have a geolocation algorithm that enables precise location targeting to reach and connect you that need data with on-the-ground data from hard-to-reach communities in Nigeria. So whether you're in Abuja and you need data in Lagos, whether you're in Abuja and you need data in Enugu, wherever, you can do that seamlessly on GoLocal. And then we have the AI question generation, which ensures that during your research design, you can quickly, with the touch of a button, generate AI-assisted questions. And this will save you time and effort in creating your survey. Now, we also have this interactive validation and quality control, whereby you are able to communicate with the contributors in that location, and you are able to review and validate the responses they submit for that survey. So you're able to chat to them and say, oh, the image you took is not clear enough, snap another one. Or what you type there, you're meant to type your email address, you type your phone number, change it. So you can communicate with them on the platform without having to travel there to go and meet the person or to the location. Now, we also have the direct engagement via WhatsApp. This process makes it very easy for users to contribute to surveys directly from your WhatsApp chat. And also, it makes it easy for organizations to reach the 51 million plus WhatsApp users in Nigeria. So if you have a survey and you need people to contribute to it, using Go Local, you can be rest assured that you can get people that are already using WhatsApp in Nigeria, which is over 51 million WhatsApp users currently. And that is 1 out of 4 mobile line users right now. Also, we have the multi-currency wallet, and this ensures that organizations are able to fund their wallet from whatever bank they use. They fund their wallet on the app, and the fund that is in their wallet, they can then disburse it to collect data. And this also ensures that contributors withdraw earnings from campaigns directly to their bank account, whatever bank account you are using, whether it's a traditional bank account or it's a microfinance bank account or it's the likes of OPay, MoneyPoint, PAMP, whatever bank account you are using, you are able to withdraw your money directly into your bank account. And lastly, we have the BVN verification. And the BVN verification ensures that organizations are reliable, and they are even checked before they even put any campaign on the platform. So you as a contributor, before you contribute to a campaign, you can be rest assured that all the organizations that are putting their campaign on the platform, they've been validated. And even you as an organization, you can also be sure that the contributors that are contributing to your campaign, they've been validated. So that means nobody can come to the app and just do anything. We validated them with their BVN. And also to say that the BVN is stored and secured. So your BVN is safe. Whatever BVN you're using as you as an individual, you have to input your own BVN. You can't type in someone else's BVN on their behalf. So it has to be your own, and it has to match the details that you are signing up with. So this ensures that we know you, and that validates you as a user on the platform. And this ensures that there is no fraudulent activity on the platform because the people that are using the platform are being validated and the data they give us is being stored and secured. Now, let me show you a brief overview of the use cases of GoLocal over the years. Now, GoLocal has been deployed to collect data on green mineral mining activities in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Mozambique, and in DRC. And also in the agriculture sector, we've deployed GoLocal to collect data on smallholder farmers, particularly the women farmers in Nigeria. We've also deployed GoLocal to collect data on oil spillage and its effect in Nigeria. And then lastly, earlier this year, GoLocal partnered with Meta, the parent company of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, to collect data on 5 major languages in Nigeria, which is Yoruba, Hausa, Urhobo, Fulfulde, and Kanuri. And we're able to do this with GoLocal. Now, as a contributor, you can earn by contributing to campaigns right from the comfort of your home. And you can do that on your mobile phone. You don't have to move from your location to another location. All you just have to do is contribute to the campaigns that are within your area. So you are collecting data for organizations that need that data for better decision making. And while you are doing that, you are being paid. And you can contribute to as many campaigns as you can. There is no limit to as many campaigns as you can. This means you can make as much money as possible on GoLocal by just contributing to campaigns. And then now, all you have to do is visit our website at www.golocal.io, and there you click sign up. And once you sign up, you input your name, your email address, you sign up. Easy, seamless, no complicated questions for you. So once you sign up, you then register as a contributor. That means you are contributing to campaigns and you want to earn on the platform. Currently, we already have over 5,000 contributors that are making money contributing valuable data on GoLocal. And also, if you want to join this community of the current contributors that are on the platform, all you just have to do is type this link, just type bit.ly/GoLocalGroup, double P. I'll drop all these links on the chat box so that you can click them and visit them. So you can join this group, you can see the interactions that are ongoing among contributors. Currently, we have contributors across different states in Nigeria. So if you want to be part of this, join this group and also visit the website at www.golocal.io. So this is an opportunity for you. If you've participated in the data collection process before, you can do that now with GoLocal on your mobile phone without having to travel around or having to go through the stress of collecting data as you used to before. Thank you very much. I'll stop sharing my screen and then I'll take questions and comments. Thank you. Okay, so I've shared the links on the chat, so you can visit it. You can just type it www.golocal.io, and from there you can register, and then you can become a contributor. Okay, so no questions for me. So at this point, I'll pass the mic to Kenny as we round up the training. Thank you. Over to you, Kenny. Okay, I see a message in the chat box saying, is Nubia still active? So Nubia is also one of DataFight's products, but right now Nubia is currently inactive. We're working on the next version of Nubia. So Nubia is currently in development level for the next version. So it's not active at this point, but once it's active, we'll make it available to everybody on this call and even everybody online. Thank you. Over to you, Kenny. All right. So now that we don't have any questions, what we've come to the end of today's session. Kenny is done with his slides and would send us the recording of this training in case we'd like to listen again. And also, if you'd like to share with a colleague or a friend, would send the recording to us, all of us that joined and are registered. So please feel free to look out for your email for the recording of this training. And we'll have another session coming up. We'll also keep you informed on the next data story lab. Thank you everyone for joining and do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye bye everyone.